do you know much about writing?
Like checks or songs?
That all applies.
Okay.
That all applies. Because,
yes.
Well, maybe you can explain this to me because there's something I don't understand.
Okay.
So when you write a letter to someone
Yes.
and you say, oh, I wrote you a letter, that makes absolutely no sense. Because there are so many letters making words, making sentences in that letter. So why do we just say, I wrote you a letter? Here's the letter D. I hope you like it. It doesn't work like that.
Now, if you just sent me like a letter E, I would be I like that. I collect some of those. I have like a movie theater letter E from way back in the day. I like that stuff.
Totally makes sense.
Right? Totally makes sense. It's not like my name starts with that. But, I think we should just say, hey, man, I'm going to write you a letters.
I'm going to write you words. I'm going to write you some paragraphs.
Right? Yeah. I'm going to write you letters in order that spell words. Okay.
This is working for me. This is making more sense. Thank you.
Yes.
That also reminds me of a friend of mine from high school. Now remember, this is way back in time.
Yes.
And he had a letter. His name was Paul.
Written on papyrus.
He got no, not that long ago.
Okay.
Actually, he was a little younger than me.
Oh.
And anyway, but he also had a letter from off of a movie marquee.
Uh-huh.
And when his brother got it for him, he said, "Don't ask, but you can catch a premiere of Redditor down the street."
Now that's brilliant. That is brilliant. I love it.
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, so let's continue with some what are we calling them now? Paragraphicons?
Oh. We're making an appearance there, I think, this year.
Oh, that's right, the Paragraphicons. We'll be signing some of our favorite paragraphs.
Yeah.
All right, well, hey, let's dig into some more letters.
Okay, yes. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Heart of the Cards, a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what we're dealt.
Hey, this is Dan Green.
And Eric Stuart.
And this is episode 34, part 2 of Listeners' Letters.
I'm really glad that one of us really keeps track of the episode numbers, and that would be you.
That's only because I do the visuals, so
That's
I actually
true.
see it.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
is what that is.
Well played. Thank you.
Yeah, but once we get past 50, I'll need someone to help me count.
That's what about my life is about the same thing. Oh, we're just cracking ourselves up today. That's
we are
good.
so funny.
I
We are
know.
so funny.
I know. Yep.
So is that crickets I hear? Anyway,
Yeah.
So we are going to delve into some more listeners' letters, and just to remind people or let people know if they're listening for the first time. And for some of the longer letters, we'll take some liberties making things more concise. We certainly won't put words in your mouth, but just in order to get to the heart of the letter so that we can include as many letters as possible. So with that, I think, Eric, you're going to kick us off with this one.
Yeah. And once again, thank you, everybody, for sharing these letters with us. Some of them are quite funny. Some of them are quite thoughtful. And then some of them are definitely some heavier things. And I know that Dan and I discuss all of those types of things on our podcast. So it means a lot to us that you feel that you want to also share those types of experiences. And this first letter, this comes from Shayna. And Shayna writes, I have to start off the story with saying Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of my favorite things ever. Well, thank you. I just turned 30 this year and still adore it just as much as I did when I was a kid. Seto Kaiba is my favorite fictional character of all time, and he's shaped my life in so many ways. Oh, okay, so you built an elevator to the stars, probably, right?
It's very impressive.
Yes, thank you. I really resonate with his personality, and I'll never forget being a kid and feeling validated by his character. Like my strong will, ambition, and drive weren't actually bad things. I didn't care if people thought that anyway, but it was still awesome to see a character who represented those qualities I saw in myself. Similar to Kaiba, I do struggle with perfectionism and needing to have things fit to a standard that's practically impossible to reach. Sometimes this quality is good because it challenges me for the better, but sometimes it leads me down a very destructive path. During 2021, I developed life-threatening anorexia out of a drive to achieve a level of perfectionism not normal or healthy for anyone. My doctor didn't think I was going to survive and actually threatened to admit me to a hospital right then and there. If I went to the hospital, there was no guarantee how long I'd be there for. So I negotiated with my doctor and asked if I could recover at home so I could continue working. Thankfully, she agreed, and I was determined to recover. I've accomplished a lot for my age, and when I say recovering from an eating disorder was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, I mean it. By the time I discovered the Heart of the Cards podcast, I was at the very tail end of my recovery, fully weight restored and just waiting to see if my fertility would return. I'd spent a lot of nights praying that maybe my husband and I would still have the opportunity to have children someday. I heard Eric's story about his journey of moving from New York to Nashville. Things totally changed for me. It was specifically the bit about his last moving trip, where he was in his car asking for a sign, and then got the call from his realtor that there was an offer on the house in New York. I remember immediately pausing the podcast to pray, putting all my struggle and faith into that prayer, and asking God to give me a sign that I'll fully recover someday. Just a few weeks later, I found out my fertility had fully returned. It was October 25th, Seto Kaiba's birthday. I was so shocked. It was definitely a sign. I just want to say thank you for sharing your stories. Every story has been a blessing to listen to. Please keep doing what you're doing, because you never know if your story will help someone like it did with me, even if it's in a very unusual way. Thank you, Shayna. Wow. Yeah. Well, first of all, that moment in that truck driving 16 hours by myself with 3 cats screaming the whole way, those were my passengers with all the stuff in the back of the truck. It was definitely a moment of, what else do you want from me? And as I've said in the past, I'm not a very religious person, but that was definitely a spiritual moment for me. I just threw up my hands and was like, I don't know what else I can do. So if that story, or that piece of that story, gave you the strength to maybe also say, what else do you want from me? And then you got something from it. If that's your belief, that's great. I also do believe that you yourself got you through this situation, and it's great that you also did ask for help and seek help from the medical profession with that, but you're really the one that's responsible for this, and Dan and I have said that before with when people have shared these types of stories. We really believe that you are the one that is the strong one in these situations.
Yeah, we're meeting the heroes. And I also want to cast some light on this eating disorder element, this struggle that she had to deal with specifically. It's serious business, and there are so many other things that are attracting our attention in terms of new issues, whether it's, some form of social media that's destroying people's brains, or whatever, new disease might be coming down the block. But eating disorders are a big deal. They're really not that unusual. And if you are having that issue, there are people who understand where you're at. And you shouldn't feel ashamed, and you shouldn't feel alone. And as we said, we admire how many people we get to meet who get through these struggles when, they tell us, because at some point Yu-Gi-Oh! Became a thing they could attach to that helped them out, that gave them hope, that spurred them on, what have you. And yes, you get through these struggles, but nobody's expected to get through these things alone. So reach out for the help if you feel you need it. An eating disorder is very easy to hide in certain circumstances until it's too late. And thankfully, Shayna listened to the doctor and realized this was a pivotal part in her life that she had to address, and she made a choice for life, which is great.
Yes. Thank you for that letter. And yes, and Kaiba is pretty cool. So
absolutely.
Yes. So
he's way cooler than the characters I play.
No, but if he's actually done some good with his attitude, then I feel even better about voicing him. So thank you. Okay, Dan. So what letter do you have up next for us?
Next, we have a letter from Emil. And its subject is Next Listener's Letters, which I guess would be this one. Hi, Dan and Eric. It's been great listening to you, and you've been a great source of entertainment as I'm working through the graveyard shifts! Exclamation point. I just wanted to know, as a soon-to-be first-time father, and knowing you two have gone from making shows for kids to actually raising kids, just as parents, what qualities do you think make for, specifically, a good father? I only ask because you did such a fine job being my role models as I grew up, and thought I'd go to the OGs for their lowdown here. Thanks. And Eric Killer Kiss was everything Edwyn Collins' Girl Like You wanted to be but couldn't. Fact.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Oh boy, this is a tough question though. Great letter.
I know you're asking two guys who are dads who know. They draw, right? I didn't have that actual dad. He died when I was 4. And so I had most of my life to sort of fill in that gap. And that was really important for me. And the things that I found I wanted a father to be were related to being strong and compassionate, loving and firm, and also, like a protector. I think also in a traditional look at relationships of fathers to sons, sons see the father more as the person in the family unit that resembles their future. And that sense of lineage, that sense of something being passed down was really something I was searching for as I was becoming a young man. But love is at the basis of any good relationship, and love isn't just a feeling, it's a verb, it's an action, it's something you do. So I think any good parent, whether they're male or female, is putting their children's well-being first, while also understanding that they have their own needs, so that they can be that better person, or the best person they can manage to be that day. And you're going to have ups and downs. But doing everything out of the foundation of love has always sent me in the right direction. Even when it's come to something like disciplining your children, which a lot of people don't like doing because it isn't fun. And you don't want to be abusive, and you have to teach them right from wrong. So you got a lot of other things to look forward to, but start with love, and you're going to end up in the right direction.
Good answer. Good answer. Yes, I agree with everything that you said. I have daughters. I have 2 daughters, and now, of course, I have 2 stepsons as well.
That's right.
But I didn't raise the boys. I will say that I look at sort of the role of being dad in definitely different chapters based on their age.
Good point.
From the you're going to be a new dad, so that's this one thing where it's like yes, you're going to be overprotective of every situation. You're going to try to read every book or get advice from all of these sources to see like you just wrote here in the letter. What I did learn in stage chapter 2 of raising my children is everyone's opinion is everyone else's opinion. Yes, there are some great, experts on this stuff, but the person that really understands the dynamic of what it's like to be a good parent in your home is really you. What works for your family.
And not all kids are the same.
Yeah, they're not. So there's no. I mean, yes, you're going to get these people that it's a textbook this and this is how you should do that or whatever. Yeah. And you know what? We ignored that in our house. We were like, no. We're going to do things our way that work for this house. Discipline was an interesting thing for me because I'm a sucker with that stuff. I definitely wear the shield of being aggressive and I don't take anyone's stuff in any form on many levels in my life. But on the other side, if you truly know me, I'm a softie, and so the role of being a strict father to daughters was, on the outside, seemed, yeah, I'm in charge. But if you were in our house, you were like, no, he's not in charge. He's not. But also the other side of the later chapter, as my girls are now women, I feel like the best father I can be for them is one that they can talk to about anything in life, whether it's the challenges, whether it's the good stuff, whether the honesty and the sort of the connection of just as people, where the roles are no longer like, well, he's my dad, so he's in charge. No, now we're just adults, and we can talk like adults. And I feel like each part of that those chapters are so important, and you'll discover that for yourself as you become a new dad, become a dad of teenagers, become a dad of adults. But we recently were having a discussion, my wife and I now, about disciplining and punishment, and how our two households approach that stuff, because we are a blended family now. I think my mom spanked me once and then cried, and that was the end of it. That was it. Some families believe in that, some don't. I wasn't raised that way. The things that were taken away from me were the things that I liked to do. If I did something wrong, no TV for 2 days or whatever it is, or you can't use you can't go play sports with your friends for a week or something like that. You have to just sort of wing it. You really just wing it, but just be a loving, good person. And all of the ways you do your parenting will pretty much come naturally. You will be challenged, but there is nothing like it. I know that Dan and I have both experienced this. I will say, for me, as much as you can tell someone your life will change when you become a parent, you can never explain to someone enough what that really means until they experience it.
Right. And part of that is that it just exists on a dimension that you can't understand until you go there. And that's probably the greater share of it. But another part of that is because everyone's a different kind of parent. You don't know exactly what their experience of it's going to be. And yeah, it's a complex path, but it's certainly one that people have managed to be able to get through well. I mean, there's lots of examples of great parents. And so good luck to you and your new family. That's such a huge step, but it's so worth it. Even when you're going through the hardest time, the most annoying phase of having to deal with diapers or sleepless nights, which also I would recommend this thing called sleep training. Literally a specialist can train your kids how to sleep so that they sleep through the night. I've always had problems sleeping through the night.
No, I mean, my kids, I bet my oldest is dating our kid.
Oh my God. I felt so guilty. My kids actually asleep through the night.
Well played. Yes, nice.
Yeah. Well, a friend recommended that and provided for that for us, so that was tremendous. But anyway, good luck to you all. It's a big journey. Well worth having. So, I think next we have a letter for you, Eric.
Yeah. Looks like this one is from Delbert. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Delbert, yes. Delbert's subject is being strong. Okay, I like that. Longtime fan. I have met both Eric and Dan at cons, both with my daughter. My friends,
nice.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure if you told me what you were cosplaying as, I might remember you. My friends have been through a lot this year, and I know you two have been through a lot. So I want to ask, what do you do when your strength runs low? What do I do? Well, to be very honest, my first reaction is to hibernate. I shut down and hibernate, and I go into deep thought mode. I go into the wheels start spinning, and I try to think, what can I do? I don't necessarily reach out immediately to others in the beginning, but then once I sort of get my act together a little bit, I do reach out. I definitely have some very good friends of course, Dan being one of them, that I can talk to about anything even when I just need to rant and I'm not looking for feedback or advice. That's also very healthy.
You rant really well.
Thank you. Also, my wife Lindsay, she is the balance to my madness.
She's great.
Finding those people, whether they are friends, relatives, or even professionals that you can talk to, because I really feel like a lot of times even just sharing what you're going through helps you heal. Just hearing the words yourself, saying it out loud. I mean, if I didn't go out of the hibernation lockdown mode and I just listened to all of the voices arguing in my head, I probably would lose my mind. But yeah, that's and the other side of my recovery from when my strength runs low is I really try to look at the two lists in my life, because the negative and the positive lists, every day, every moment of every day, you could easily make one a longer list than the other. It's really easy to do because there's so many things. And you're like, well, today it looks like there's 10 things on the bad list and 2 on the good. And the next day you're like, wait, there's 10 things on the good list and 2 things on the bad. It's just a matter of how you just sort of looking at things and counting them. So when I'm overwhelmed by the crazy bad stuff that maybe will knock me down a bit, I try to make the list on the other side and say, well, wait. Well, what are the good things that I've got going on that I can enjoy as well? And maybe that will help me sort of skew it the other way. That's at least my approach to this stuff.
Well said. Yes to all of that. And Eric is one of the most reliable resources when you have a problem, which is why I always call him first. I think even before I know I have a problem, I think I just send the problems to him.
Or I can give you a new one if you don't have it.
Yeah, it's so kind. He covers all the bases. It's great. Strength runs low. So that to me sounds like the feeling that you don't have what you feel you need to deal with what's in front of you. And being through a lot, it really depends on what sort of problem you're having. We were talking about eating disorders just a while ago. That's a very different thing than a job that is too demanding, or being in a relationship that is unfulfilling and you don't have the courage to look that in the face and get real and make the break, or whatever it may be. But the feeling that you don't have the strength within you is a place where you feel helpless to a degree. And that's not a very comfortable feeling, but it's certainly a normal one. And it doesn't have to defeat you. But you have to acknowledge that's where you're at. And maybe you don't feel that you have what it takes because of something you're telling yourself that isn't true. Like you've always been this way, so you can never expect yourself to be that way. Or the reason that you're having these problems is because you deserve them. Or another thing that people do, and I do this a lot, I suffer through a problem anticipating the problem before the problem actually happens. And your body experiences it in the exact same way as if the problem were actually happening. So it's not good for you. There's this Stoic, Marcus Aurelius, and a quote of his along those lines goes something like, "He who suffers before is necessary suffers more than necessary."
Ooh.
And yeah, so you can head trip yourself. I actually resolved something that was hanging like a cloud over me for years. And resolving it was actually easy. But I let myself suffer and suffer and suffer with the, well, what if this and what if that and I don't know and oh my God. And I mean, I definitely added some extra white hairs to my head on that. And I have plenty already. But anyway, so having the strength within you is not something that you're always going to feel. And that's part of the hero's journey. If we want to go back to that way of looking at things, there's a point where you feel you don't have more to give. And then usually a combination of something happening within you and recognizing something that's without you, outside of you, helps you to make that bridge and get back on the path to where you want to go.
Good stuff. And and great letters too. Really,
Yeah.
once again, appreciate people asking us these questions and also sharing these very powerful stories. It really means a lot. Thank you for that. Okay, great letter. Great letter. All right, so
Thank you.
what do you have next for us, Dan?
Well, next, and I think this will be our final letter for this episode, is a letter or letters or paragraphs from our friend Tricia, who we've met a number of times over the years.
Yeah.
And the subject is Hey, Dan and Eric. And I think for this letter, we should share it. We should both trade off.
Oh, that's exciting.
reading of it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Yep.
I hope you both have been doing well. I haven't reached out via here yet. I'm assuming she means the letters thing.
Yeah, yep.
As I'll admit, I haven't kept up with the podcast as I'd have liked to. I haven't managed to throw off the shackles of the 9 to 5, and the children take up the rest of the time. Smiley face.
Dan, thank you for your vulnerability with your experiences. I, too, was institutionalized in middle school, and what you described was a lot like my experience, though it was slightly different. I was 12, and I was caught planning my suicide in class by a teacher, so I was locked up to prevent that. Between my mom's neglect, my stepdad's abuse of me while being great to his children, my half-siblings, and the severe bullying at school for being a tomboy in a tiny rural community, girls aren't supposed to like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc., because they're boys' shows, or girls aren't supposed to be smarter than boys, crap like that. I had just given up and wanted to end it all.
Another big difference is that I had recently become obsessed with this new show called Yu-Gi-Oh! And developed a method of dissociating into my mind, sort of self-inserting myself into the world and the story. In a way, I could avoid the pain of the real world while imagining a happier world with friends. Yugi was essentially my ideal friend, both the kind of friend I wanted to be and the kind of friend I wanted to have. To this day, I still try to emulate the way Yugi supports his friends and is always their biggest cheerleader.
I also think I've mentioned to Eric before that I strongly identified with Kaiba and looked up to him, in that he overcame his abusive stepdad and was working towards a life that he could be proud of. Seriously, free amusement park entrance to orphans, there is no way the man is a villain. I agree. I have to agree. That's me adding that in. He was a role model of sorts, since that was my goal at the time. Good grades, good scholarship, a good degree, and finally a good job. And then I assumed that would prove to my abusive stepdad that I wasn't as worthless as he said I was. And everything would be good finally. And I did it all. I graduated college early with a bachelor's in mathematics at age 20, was employed full-time 2 weeks early, bought a house a year later, and then things sort of fell apart.
Because I had done that not for myself, but for vengeance, it all eventually felt hollow. It still does, to be honest. Which is why I did the voice acting lessons in 2016. Now, you did that with her, right, Eric?
I did, yeah. We did that here in Nashville. It was really cool to meet her, and she was great. And we actually did, she did a seminar here, and then we also did one-on-one stuff remotely. And, yeah, I produced a demo for her.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure she was great.
It was great.
I was finally pursuing something I wanted for myself, and not for the money. Man, how many times do we talk about that?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Like every time.
Yep.
We do a panel.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, Eric's new album, Sentimental Landslide, just dropped, so check it out. It's
Thank you.
awesome.
Appreciate that. Your check's in the mail.
It had been a dream as a kid, and still is. Though the unexpected surprise of my son and then daughter delayed things. Ha. I'm sure that happened.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. Some days you're just like, what did I do today? Oh, right, I was a parent.
Yeah.
I'm a bit too cowardly, it seems, to make a major change like that when the kids are so young. No, you're reasonable. I wouldn't say you're a coward. I found that I'm determined to give them everything that I never had, from a loving, supportive, and stable family to having all of their basic needs being met reliably. So I suppose the tech industry is where I'll have to remain a bit longer. No shame in that. And you know where your joy is, and a lot of people don't even have that much figured out. I'm working hard to improve my health with the hope that when it's better, I can work on squeezing in a couple of hours of audiobook work in the evenings after they go to bed, so I can use that as a springboard into more voice work in the future. My dear, I literally woke up early in the morning to get a head start on my audiobook because the kids were asleep.
So you can relate. Yep.
I can relate. The next one's for you, my friend.
Yep. I really hope to bring them to meet you both someday. Eric got to meet 2-month-old Joseph, but he's a lot bigger now. Honestly, neither child would be here without both of you and your work on Yu-Gi-Oh, giving me the strength to continue living with the abuse and bullying. Yugi and that's I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I'm so glad you found something in our show and our work, and it's just it's beyond humbling to think that the power of those performances and those characters, and of course the writing, helped you along. But thank you for that.
Takahashi really understood that so many people could identify with being bullied.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yugi and Kaiba gave me hope, and both provided things that I needed to keep moving forward. I still wish I had the confidence that Kaiba has. Yeah, well, don't we all? Remember, I'm just an actor.
Little bit of typecasting.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, you both have no idea how much I enjoy the podcasts that I've listened to. I've enjoyed listening to your advice on life, acting, and just being myself, and I appreciate the engagement. Also, side note, we don't ever presume to give advice, but we do offer our perspective, but we're glad you found something of value out of that, so, well, we're very happy about that. And I sincerely hope to see you both again soon. Wisconsin may not be all that enjoyable in winter, but we've got some great cheese here. Winky face.
I wish you both the best.
And hope you all have a great holiday season. Aw.
Yeah. You too.
That's nice, Trisha. You too. So much in there as well. I mean, the story from terrible childhood situation, right, for her to grow up through, and then feeling like, I love this story because then she feels like she get what she's been looking for and realizes, no, there's more to it than that. There's more to it than avenging.
Yeah, that was interesting to take all of that negative energy from childhood, go and do all the things to prove these people wrong about her, but then not being satisfied with that because the motivation was not right. That's very interesting. I really respect that.
It's very mature.
Yeah. And then looking for the thing that gives her joy. You know, finding that balance of parenting and also voiceover work. I just, you know, I mean, that does take that maturity level because later on she looks back and says, yeah, it's great that I have this degree and all of this stuff, but what makes me happy?
Right. I'd also reflect back that if she hadn't gone that road of vengeance to become a reliable and effective member of society, she wouldn't be able to provide as well as I assume she can for her family. So it wasn't like that journey wasn't worth making.
Yeah.
And it led her to a deeper truth. But man, she is so more put together than I am. Because like, you know, I had some stuff too, and I took all the negativity of my childhood, and I just nearly got myself thrown out of school a couple of times.
Yeah.
She got like a degree at 20. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's
So.
I love the fact that she, like, mathematics degree at age 20. I still can't balance my checkbook, you know? Very impressive.
Oh man. Well, I think this is a good place to end our episode for today. And thank you for the people who've been following us and listening to us. We realize in the last month or so, we weren't releasing as many episodes as we would have liked or usually do. But as you understand, we have some unpredictable elements happening in our lives. I know I have a lot of stuff I need to be doing in the next several months, which may also impact our frequency, but we're always going to be putting out episodes of The Heart of the Cards, and we're always grateful that you guys are there listening.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Dan and I will always have something to say. Yes, that will happen. We like to talk. It's what we do.
It's true.
It's what we do.
That's true.
Yes.
And we promise we're never going to put an episode out there just to put one out there.
Yes, that is true.
No
too.
filler.
No filler.
All killer.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm
working on the T-shirts right now. Stand by.
Oh, well, speaking of something that rhymes, we're also putting together a little holiday gift, and it's not very long, but we think you'll like it.
Yeah. Stay tuned for that.
Yes, only on Andromeda Productions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my friend, shall we call it a 2023?
Yeah, let's do it. This is a great way to end.
Look forward to the new year?
Yeah. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Happy New Year to you. I can't wait, and I won't have to see you again because we're appearing in January.
That's right. We shall celebrate together.
Indeed, we shall. And to all of our listeners and followers, we thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please like and subscribe. We're obligated to say that. And we, more importantly, really value that we've given something you of value. And thank you to those who have come to the conventions and mentioned to us that you listen to the show. And thanks to everyone that decided to click that QR code and become a subscriber in the last year or so. We get new subscribers every month, and it's very exciting. And we really enjoy having this conversation with you all. And we look forward to the next time in 2024, where we can have a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what we're dealt.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Cards with Dan Green and Eric Stuart. We hope this conversation in some way spoke to you. Whatever your journey, we look forward to crossing paths again in the next episode. This is Veronica Taylor, and on behalf of Andromeda Productions, we wish you well.
Andromeda, always a sound choice.